Every now and then, a story pops up that seems super local, like a construction project at an Air Force base in Idaho. But then you look closer, and it's actually about something way, way bigger. This is one of those stories. It's kicked off a huge national debate about foreign policy, accusations of corruption at the highest levels, and what national security even means anymore. So what's the deal with what's happening in Idaho? Let's get into it.
No, you heard that right. This is the headline that made everyone do a double take. The United States has officially given the green light for the nation of Qatar to build and operate a facility for its own fighter jets on a U.S. Air Force base. And the location? Mountain Home, Idaho, of all places.
Okay, so to make sense of this whole thing, we're going to break it down. First, what exactly is this facility? Then, what's the official story from the government? We'll dive right into the controversies, and there are a couple of big ones, from corruption claims to Qatar's ties with Hamas. We'll also ask, is this as weird and unprecedented as it sounds? And finally, we'll zoom out and look at what this says about alliances in our very messy world.
All right. First things first, what are we actually talking about here? When this news broke, the internet basically exploded with claims of a foreign military base being built on U.S. soil. But, as usual, the reality is a little more complicated.
So defense officials have been working overtime to clarify what this is, and maybe more importantly, what it isn't. This is not an independent Qatari base. Think of it as a Qatari-funded building project, with hangars and offices built on the existing Mountain Home Air Force Base. The U.S. military stays in full control of the entire base, so all Qatari pilots and their F-15s will be there. They're operating under American command and American security.
So that naturally leads to the next big question. Why? Why on earth is Qatar basing a squadron of its state-of-the-art fighter jets in Idaho? And why did this deal get finalized right now?
Well, this deal didn't just appear out of thin air. It's actually the end of a long process that really kicked off back in 2017, when Qatar bought a bunch of F-15QA jets from the U.S. We're talking some of the most advanced fighters in the world. By 2020, they were already doing environmental checks for a training site in Idaho, but the timing of the final announcement is key. It came right after the U.S. issued a security guarantee to Qatar, following an Israeli airstrike in Doha. So you can really see this facility as a physical symbol of that deepening security partnership.
But for a lot of critics, that official timeline just doesn't cut it. The whole deal has been dogged by accusations of corruption, and it all centers around one very large, very public, and very expensive gift.
This comment from a Reddit thread pretty much captures the essence of the first major controversy. It draws a straight line between the Idaho facility and a really lavish gift that President Trump got from Qatar's royal family. The gift we're talking about was a Boeing 747-8 business jet, valued at around $400 million. The Trump administration accepted it, saying they'd turn it into a new presidential plane. But for critics, the timing just looks way too suspicious. They're calling the jet a bribe and the Idaho deal a quid pro quo, and it's raising some pretty serious questions about whether it violates the Constitution.
Now, beyond the accusations of some backroom deal, there's another, maybe even more intense, point of criticism. And this one is all about Qatar's well-known and very public relationship with Hamas.
And this is the apparent contradiction that has so many people absolutely furious. On the one hand, you have the administration taking this super hard line against pro-Palestinian student protesters here at home, calling them Hamas sympathizers and a security threat. And then, on the other hand, it's deepening its military partnership with Qatar, a country that gives financial support to Hamas and literally hosts its political leaders. To critics, it just screams hypocrisy.
This feeling was put most bluntly by conservative activist and Trump ally Laura Loomer. She called the whole plan an abomination. She framed it as a direct threat to American security, arguing that a country with any ties to groups like Hamas should never, ever have a military foothold inside the United States.
So the criticism has been fierce, to say the least. But it does bring up a really important factual question. Is this kind of thing, hosting a foreign military unit for training, actually new? Is this really as unprecedented as it sounds?
Well, the answer is a pretty clear no. The U.S. has been hosting allied forces for training for a very long time. In fact, get this, Singapore operates its own squadron of F-15s at the exact same base in Idaho. Germany has a command post in Virginia, the British Royal Air Force trains pilots in California and Nevada, the Dutch train in Arizona, and there's been a joint NATO pilot training program in Texas since 1981. So while the partner Qatar is definitely controversial, the practice itself is actually pretty common.
So, if the practice isn't new, what does this specific deal with this specific partner tell us about modern American foreign policy? Let's zoom out and look at the big picture.
The reality is that Qatar plays this uniquely complicated, often contradictory role for the U.S. It's officially a major non-NATO ally. It's home to Al Udeid Air Base, which is the Pentagon's biggest military base in the entire Middle East. It's also become an absolutely essential go-between for the U.S. in diplomatic talks, like the recent ceasefire negotiations. And at the exact same time, it's an open supporter and host of Hamas's leadership. It's a partner that is somehow both indispensable and deeply, deeply problematic.
Ultimately, everything we're talking about operates under an official U.S. policy. There's a law, the Arms Export Control Act, that lets the president authorize these kinds of sales and training deals when they decide that it strengthens U.S. security or promotes world peace. In this case, the administration has clearly decided that a deeper military relationship with Qatar, despite all the controversy, does just that.
And all of this leaves us with the central question, doesn't it? In a world of complicated threats and constantly shifting alliances, where do you draw the line between a necessary partner and a dangerous problem? The deal in Idaho suggests that sometimes, for the United States, they can be the exact same thing.